Hi guys, g'day, greetings. Welcome to part 6 of the series where we take a look at every deck within my tarot and oracle card collection. So these are the next decks that we're going to look at. I just wanted to say, and I think you'll have noticed if you've been watching through the different episodes, that these decks are ones that I use in my own personal journey and in my own personal self-care and self-development. They are also decks that I use with other people as part of my business, but they are decks that I use in women's circles so that other people can benefit from the beautiful messages that these cards have and the beautiful images that they have as well. So I really hope that you are enjoying this journey with me. We will now take a look at these decks. I think there's 21 of them here, and I'm really looking forward to sharing them with you. So if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate the fact that you've taken a moment to slow down and check out what it is that these decks have on offer and what it is that this channel is all about. If you are someone who has been around for some time, I really want you to know how grateful I am. I truly appreciate the fact that you return to this channel and that you continue to come along this journey with me. I certainly do not take any of that for granted. I really appreciate that. And I know your time is valuable, and I'm so pleased that you have chosen to share some of that with me here. So before we get started, welcome to Finding Sanctuary. My name's Karen, and the first deck we're going to look at today is the Silhouettes Tarot. Now, I have done a full video on this, and as you may know if you've watched the video, the one thing I don't like about this deck is the fact that the guidebook has come separate. So the guidebook, it looks like this. It's pretty standard, pretty basic messaging. It gives your upright and your reversed meaning, and it is in 2 languages. So this is what the cards look like. Now, I really do like them. I use them for my shadow work mainly, and they work really well for me in that aspect. I like the fact with the silhouettes. Now, what I like about this deck is I love using it on its own, but more importantly, I love real connection to another tarot deck person, and I have paired it with quite a few when I've been using it, because I love to compare as if it's happening in the dark, the messages, the shadows, and it's really mysterious, which is what I like, and the cards give off that wonderful energy. So it is a deck that I do enjoy. Now, the next one I would like to look at is the Location Spirit of Place Tarot. This is also one that I have done a full review on. If you're interested, you can check that out in my channel. It doesn't come with a guidebook. It's based on the Rider-Waite series of cards. So if you understand how they work, you will be able to read these as well. So these are the backs of the cards. I'm not sure if you can see. The green is a foil, and it's very beautiful. It glitters, and I hope that the light captures that for you guys to be able to see. When you turn it over, it is called Location, the Spirit of Place, which means that the main thing that you see is the actual background of the places where these cards are taking place. So I have shown you in the other video, and I'm not sure if you can see it here, but when you move these cards on a certain angle, sometimes you can see the invisible ink that comes out. Now, I'll just bring this up here, and I'll have to focus it in. See if we can actually get this particular little guy to show for you. So I'm not sure if you can see the outline of the character on the invisible ink here. It's a little bit difficult, but he's definitely there. There he is. I think you can see him. So he shows up on the card. Each card has an invisible character on them that hides away in the place like a spirit. They're very beautiful. They're very easy to see when you're working up close with them, but they are difficult like this. So as you can see, the invisible ink is there on each of the cards, and this is just what they look like. It's very beautiful. So this card comes with a number of specific cards. This one is specific to Kickstarter, so if you back this project on Kickstarter, you will get this one. And there are some other 7 Wonders of the World that you also get as part of this deck, which aren't part of the normal Rider-Waite deck. So they're really interesting to have. But what I like about this deck is I love using it alongside another tarot deck so that I can have that added dimension and focus on the actual place where the messages are coming from. I think it adds a lot of depth, and it takes away some of the fussiness of all the people and the action that are happening. It feels like something, when I do these readings, for me, the readings feel like they're very personal. And I think because it has the invisible ink and the message coming through, that's what helps to connect it to me on a personal level, and is more inward retrospective kind of feel to it. It's really hard to explain, but it's a beautiful deck, and it's one that I like to use. Definitely love using it for shadow work, definitely love coupling it with other tarot decks, and definitely love being able to sit in contemplation and meditation with these cards around what it is that I truly pick up from the energy of the spirits within place. And I'm not sure if I actually said, both of these decks are decks that I purchased off Kickstarter, and I supported the creation of, and I'm really glad that I did. So the next deck I have is Ask Your Guides Oracle Cards by Sonia Choquette. This is a beautiful deck. It is one that I've had for quite some time, and it is one that I like to use. So it has the guidebook here with your messages. It gives you some keywords for each one, and then the message that the card delivers. This is what the cards look like. It's really a style that's reminiscent of the early 2000s. I really enjoy it. Again, I think it's because it's familiar. It's definitely something that I feel like I've always had in my life, and it leans towards always giving strong and supportive messages, and that's why I like this deck. So it is one that I will use on its own. I love to journal with the cards, especially when they're coupled with another deck. I love to journal with them. I do use them as part of my meditation and contemplation practices. Sometimes I use them when I'm doing my energy work. It really all depends. But this is a deck that I generally keep to myself. I don't share with others, and I really do like it. Now, the next deck I have is the Aboriginal Ancestral Wisdom Oracle, and it is by Mel Brown. It is one of the few decks that I have by Mel Brown. I think I have 2 of her decks. This is beautiful. This is really, really beautiful. I love the feel of it. I love the energy that it gives off. I love the sense of ancestral connection to country. Yeah, it just really is a beautiful deck that I really enjoy. I tend to use it on its own. I don't couple it with anything else, but I definitely love what it has to offer. I'm a bit partial to Australian decks and Indigenous decks. They just kind of really resonate with me, which is what I love. So these cards are almost like a dual personality. They have one side which is positive and one side which is in the negative on each of them, and we have the messages here. They're very strong messages. They're quite beautiful messages. So each of the cards is a different colour, and they're set out into groups. So we have the green cards are Rainforest Wisdom, the brown cards are Desert Wisdom, the yellow cards are Saltwater Wisdom, and the blue cards are Freshwater Wisdom. So it really is a beautiful deck, and one that I turn to quite regularly and I find really engaging. So next I have the Moonsprites Oracle. It's 47 Oracle cards, and this was one that I backed on Kickstarter, and I was really pleased that I did. I really haven't had any from Kickstarter that I'm not happy with, which is fantastic. Each of the cards in here is in dual languages, and you get the message for each of the cards, which is really good. And they have an upright and a reversed meaning for them. So this is what the back of the cards look like. It's almost like a walking tree, quite intriguing. I do like it. And this is what the front of the cards look like. So they're all within this border, but I think the border holds the images really well and gives almost like you're looking through a mirror at the message that's being delivered and the story that's unfolding. And I really like that feel to these cards. So there's one card in here that's called the mirror, and I'd love to be able to find it and show you. When you look at it, it looks like it's been printed backwards, and it's done deliberately because you are looking out at yourself. So let me see if I can find it. There it is, the mirror. So the number is back to front and the wording is back to front, and that's because you were looking, the idea of the card is you were looking back out at yourself. Really beautiful deck. Now, I haven't used this deck as much as I would like. When I first got it, I used it a few times, and then I kind of put it aside. Not because I don't like it, but purely because at the time I received a number of decks in quick succession, and that meant that this deck got looked at and then put to one side. So this is a deck that I have earmarked to work with in 2023, so that again I can build a greater relationship with it, and I can really hone my skills in understanding and reading the messages that it wishes to deliver. Now, this is Divine Abundance Oracle cards. It's a 52 card deck by Tosha Silva, and the art's by Fina Gonzalez. And the cards look like this. So the back of the cards look like this, which again is that purpley blue color. I really like. It seems to be coming out more and more on cards, or maybe they're just the cards I'm buying, but I really, really like it. And the front of the cards look like this. I find this really engaging. It's a style that I enjoy. It's kind of like it almost feels like the images are patchwork, the way that they've come about, and some of the lines and that are on the cards. It feels like it's kind of stitched together, but the messages are very clear, very concise. They're quite good. They're solid. They give a lot and they get you thinking. So that's what I like. It's a beautiful deck for using for self-care. It's a beautiful deck to marry up with some of the other decks that I have, and I really do enjoy it. And if you haven't worked out by now, self-care is high on my priority list, and a lot of the decks I buy are bought for the purpose of being able to assist me in looking after myself, my mental health, my self-care, and getting the best out of life that I can through the practice of working with cards. So this one here is Tarot for Kids. I have done a full rundown on this one. It is quite a robust deck, and the cards are quite big. Kind of, I feel that they're quite a challenge for kids to be using and to be shuffling, because they certainly are for me, but it is nevertheless a great deck. These are the back of the cards. They're totally reversible, and these are the front of the cards. So it's a really lovely deck for children to work with. It's the imagery is kind of soft, which is great for children, but it still stands very much in a Rider-Waite style. So it gives them that balance between being a kid and reading with a full-blown deck that's very full of symbolism and quite, what's the word I want to use? Quite mature in its artwork and imagery. So this is kind of a softer version of it in the visual sense. So really beautiful. And this is the guidebook that comes with it. And again, it has the message, the reversed message, and it gives a question. So when they're using the deck and they pull out a card, it'll give them the meaning, whether it's upright or reverse, and then it'll give a question to get them thinking, which is an aspect that I really like about this deck. Now the next deck I'd like to share with you is the Guardian Angel Tarot cards. It's a 78 card deck and guidebook. Now this is by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. And I think you can still get this deck, but it's titled with only Radley Valentine. That may not be the case. I know some of the decks that they created together are still available, and they've been modified slightly so that Radley can still have them produced in his name. So this is the guidebook. It's quite robust. It's got really good information in here. Now this is what I, so it has the situation, the people, and additional meanings for the cards. Now this is a tarot deck that I personally feel is light and fluffy. It's designed to be read in the upright position only, and all of the messages are really upbeat, they're soft, they're really heartwarming, and it is a beautiful deck. I enjoy it. It has almost an old Victorian feel to the way that it's been presented in my eyes, but it is quite enduring. But it is a deck that I feel a lot of people who may not be comfortable with tarot could be comfortable with this. It feels not very threatening. It feels very welcoming, very warm, and very gentle. And I think that that definitely translates into the messages that are received with this deck. Now this is the Energy and Spirit Oracle by Sandra Ann Taylor. It is an absolutely beautiful deck. Now I have done a full video on this if anybody is interested. This is the guidebook. It's all in black and white, and it has an upright, reversed, and affirmation for each of the cards. And these are the cards themselves. Now as you can see here, I think it's quite obvious. This deck has a number of flaws in the printing when it was done. Now, some people may not like that. For me, it just adds a different depth and element to my deck. It makes it unique. As you can see here, there's quite a lot of printing error. But, you know, this card's Ascended Masters, and they, to me, the printing error just makes it feel like that it's a spiritual energy that's flowing through. And I really like that because it's devoted to spirits with specific intentions. And I just feel that that adds an element to this card that wouldn't be there if this printing error hadn't happened. So this is a really great deck. It's got a lot of depth, a lot of feeling. The energy within it is incredible. I really, really like it. In fact, I like it so much that I did buy myself another copy of this deck, and it's still in its wrapping and unopened, so I don't know if it's got a similar printing issue, but personally I really don't care. I'm just happy that I have another copy of it so that I can use when this one's well worn. So this one here is the Be Your Own Wildflower. It's the Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. It's 30 daily affirmation cards inspired by the beloved book, The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. Now this is a really pretty deck. It's not, it is an affirmation deck. It's not an oracle or a tarot deck. But again, as I've said so many times, I do use these cards in that manner. So this is the back of the cards, and even though I don't like backs with writing on, I actually think this is quite pretty. It doesn't worry me too much that it has the information on it. But here on the front of the cards, it has an affirmation, and then it has information about the particular flower with its meaning, its where it's found, its botanical name, and just some extra information, which I really, really like. So I use these as affirmation cards. So when I'm doing my readings with my tarot or oracle cards, and again, I just want that little extra oomph to go with it, I will choose one of these cards as an affirmation and work with it in that way. And I have to say, I really like this box. It's the only set of cards that I have that come in a box like this, but I do enjoy it. So next I have the Gods and Goddesses, Mantras, Blessings and Meditations card deck, 52 cards. Now this is similar to my guitar deck. It is one that I was visually taken with. The images, I think, are just absolutely incredible. There's just something about it, and again, I can't explain it, but it just really resonates with me. I actually wonder in a past life if this may have been a path that I have tread, because I'm really pulled and connected to this kind of imagery, and I'm not really sure why, because I've never really been exposed to it in my everyday life outside the oracle cards. So that's something I always wonder and gravitate towards. So they're very beautiful cards, like the Gita cards. When I got them, I didn't quite understand how they were supposed to be used. They do have information on the back. They have a mantra, a meditation, and a blessing. That's a little bit easier for me to work with. The mantras are not in English, so I can't do very much with them. The meditations are quite good. They explain themselves, so I do like to work with that. And the blessings, that's probably the main part of how I work with this deck. I work with the messages that are given in the blessings. So it is a deck that I love to just pull a card from and put on my altar. I love to be able to see the imagery and to be able to soak it up throughout the day. I will pull a card and put it with another deck if I feel called to do so, but basically it's predominantly used as an altar deck and a meditation deck for me. This is Daily Rituals Oracle, Practice Intention with Mindfulness. I really love that idea, and the cards are very pretty. They're this pinky salmon kind of purpley colour with this beautiful yellow on the back, and this is what the cards look like on the front. Now I use these as part of my self-love, self-care, self-compassion working, my personal development. I love to use them and pull them and put them on my altar. I love to meditate with them. I love to use them for the energy of the day and to be able to journal with them. They're very valuable with that, and they are extremely valuable when they're paired with a number of other decks that I have, to be able to give me that self-care element and to be able to fuse in the element of ritual. I think that's really important. It's something that I love having in my day, and these help me to do that. Now the next one here is a Daily Crystal Inspiration, a 52-card oracle deck for finding health, wealth and balance. It's by Heather Askinozi, I think it's pronounced. I really enjoy this deck. This is the back of the cards, pictures of crystals, and this is the front of the cards. Now I like the this deck feels really clean and crisp and really clear in the message that it gives, and I think that's a lot of that's down to the energy that the deck gives off, because it is designed in this almost minimalistic manner where you just have the crystal against the white background. I think that really gives it a lot of power in its readings and a lot of oomph behind what it's trying to say. That, you know, the messages are crystal clear, they're very straightforward, there's no ambiguity with them, and I really like that about this deck. So as you can see, the crystals themselves in these pictures are quite pretty. They're all photographs that have been put here. Really pretty, and there's some lovely crystals in here that I haven't necessarily worked a lot with, so it's nice to have those within the deck. Then they're not just a repeat like all of the other decks that I have. They're not complete repetitiveness of the kind of crystals that it carries. So this is the guidebook. What it does is it gives you the information of how to the information that's related to the crystal. It gives you core questions, and it gives you a crystal action for every card. And I really like these two aspects of this deck and what it brings to a reading and to my journaling, and yeah, it's really valuable. So this is the Goddess Dream Oracle by Wendy Andrew. It is the sister deck to the earlier one that I showed you. It's very beautiful. I love the backs of these decks. They're very intricate and quite detailed, and yet quite delicate at the same time. This is the front of the decks. Now, this is a deck that I love to use when I want a deep reading, when I want to be able to look inside myself and really get an understanding of what's going on. So it's a really lovely deck. I usually pair it with its sister deck. It just adds a lot of depth and value for me personally into a reading, but it definitely holds its own on its own. It's really great for, again, that personal development. I do use it in shadow work, funny enough. On the odd occasion, I will pull it as a card to support the shadow side as a way of finding out what it is that I can bring in a light to the shadow to be able to move forward, and it works really well in that space. Now the next one I have is the Zend Out Journey Tarot, a deck for personal growth by Cassie Ull. Now this is a deck that I've had for quite some time. I absolutely adore the colouring. If you haven't guessed, it's purple again. It has the moon phases on the back. They really resonate with me, which is fantastic. And these are the actual cards and the front of them. Now, this isn't my usual style, and it is a deck that, funnily enough, I don't use as much as I potentially could or should, or it just doesn't resonate with me as much as I really thought it would. I was hoping that it would really sink in and become something that I went looking for, but I don't. It's a beautiful deck, but it just doesn't do it for me. So it sits here and gets very little use, but it is one that I'm looking at sharing in my women's circles and seeing how it goes there in that space, and just seeing what value it might be able to add, because it definitely is a lovely deck, and I don't want it to sit on my bookcase and not go anywhere. So this is what the guidebook looks like. It's in full color with the messages. It doesn't have any reversed meanings, which some people really like and some people don't. I'm in the I don't category. I prefer a deck that is definitely able to be read in the upright and reverse manner, and as you can see, the backs aren't reversible. So next I have the Little Book of Mindfulness, 52 beautiful cards to help you live in the moment. Obviously this is not a tarot or oracle deck of cards, but it is one that I use in my practices, so I thought I would share it with you. The back of the cards is really, I hate it, to be honest. I hate cards that have writing on. I think it's, yeah, I really don't like it at all. I don't think it adds value at all to the deck. But I like these cards. I like the messages that are on them, and I think that they work really well with my oracle and tarot cards. So what happens is I use these like I use the Universe Has Your Back, or the Super Attractor cards, or the latest ones that I got of Kyle Gray's, and I can't remember exactly what they were called. Raise Your Vibration, I think they were called. I use these in the same way. So when I've done a reading and I'm just looking for that added element, I will shuffle these and I will pick a card, and I will find a way for the message to fit with the reading that I have received. So in this moment, you are precisely as you should be. In this moment, there is infinite possibility. Victoria Moran. So I would look and see how that fitted in with the reading of the cards that I had, and it's amazing. You often look and think, how can that fit in, Karen? I'm not sure that it could, But when I step back and I look at things objectively, and I take myself out of the picture and I just try and see how things flow, I find that these cards always fit in amazingly, and it's incredible the way that they do that. This one says, I took a deep breath and listened to the old brag of my heart. I am, I am, I am. Sylvia Plath. So really beautiful cards. Next, I have the Doreen Virtue Mary Queen of Angels Oracle cards, a 44-card deck and guidebook. Again, this was one of the last decks that Doreen brought out before she decided no longer to make oracle cards and tarot cards. This one comes with a guidebook, which is quite helpful. And then these are the cards themselves. So the back of the cards look like this, which is, yeah. I think if you're into Mary, then they're very beautiful. And the front of the cards look like this. So again, it's almost like the border around the images is almost like it's honing your vision in on what is happening, and it's really channeling you right down into that moment, I feel. And it's, you know, holding you there as the words support you. So like gratitude, as I notice and appreciate my blessings, I open the door to more of God's gifts. Now, as I've spoken before, if the word God is used somewhere, then I tend to think of the universe, higher power, whatever works for me. I know some people can't do that, and that I'm absolutely okay with that, but that's how I choose to use these cards. Because I do work with other people and in women's circles, the fact that these are Mother Mary is okay with me. I like them. I can relate them in different ways to what it is that I'm doing, and different readings, and pick up on the messages. I can definitely do that. Some people can't, and that's absolutely okay. But I love having them as an extra added option for when I'm working with other people, so that if that's something that they gravitate towards more than I necessarily do, because for the most part I don't, but if that's something they gravitate towards, then they are definitely there to be able to be tapped into. Now, this is the Divine Tea Time Inspiration Cards, Rituals and Blends to Soothe Your Soul by Tracy Lachlan. And I absolutely love the look of this deck. It is so beautiful. And when you open it up, it comes with this little stand for your cards, which is always a great addition, I think. Rockpool do quite a few decks with that these days. And it has this little leaflet with information about the deck and the cards, and explains to you different things. And these are the cards themselves. Now, it has this blue edging, which is really pretty. And the colouring of these cards is just stunning. I could look at it all day. It's really beautiful. So these are the backs of the cards. They're just, I find it really tranquil, really calming, really soothing, really heartfelt. I just want to sink into it. It's just really, really, really appeals to me. And the tones and the blues just is incredible in the atmosphere and the energy that it gives off. It just really appeals to me. And when you turn them over, each card has its own tea blend and the reason for the blend. So this one here is spice. It has star anise, fennel and cinnamon tea, and it tells you add 3 star anise, 2 cinnamon sticks and a spoon of fennel seeds in a small bag, place in a pot, pour over boiling water and brew for 10 minutes. And this is a soothing blend, and it goes through. We have relaxing, we have refreshing, we have detoxing, we have calming, we have balancing, we have refreshing, and again, detoxing, cleansing. And I really like this deck. Not only does it visually appeal to me, I like the fact that when I'm doing a reading, I can actually pull this deck out. I can give it a bit of a shuffle, and I can, ask the universe, which blend is going to help me understand the messages, absorb the meaning behind the messages, be able to drink in what it is that is being presented to me. And I can pull a card, and I can, if I choose, I can just meditate on the card and the message that it has, and know that in this space I need to be able to detox, to be able to understand the message that's being given by the reading, or to take in what it is that the reading is trying to share with me. Or I can actually create the drink of tea and use that as a tool to be able to detox, to be able to understand and drink in the message that is being given. And I really love that about this deck. Now this one here is the Earthcraft Oracle by Juliet Diaz and Lorraine Anderson, and the art is by Danielle Boudou Fortune. And this is the back of the cards. This is the back of the cards here. Now, it's very beautiful. It's very colourful, it's very lively. It just, yeah, it does appeal to me, even though it's not a reversible back. It does appeal to me. And when we turn the cards over, it's an art style that for me is all its own. It's very beautiful, it's very thoughtful, it's very earthy, very grounded, very connected to Mother Nature, which is something that I really love and adore. So I really like working with this deck. It has a mixed energy for me. It's kind of, in some aspects it feels quite feminine, but in other aspects it definitely has a strong masculine undertone, which really shines through, and I do enjoy. So I love working with this deck when I'm trying to find my footing, when I'm trying to, when I'm starting a new project and I really want to understand how to stand in the right manner, stand in the right way to be able to achieve what I want to achieve. I love this deck. I love how it connects to nature and how I can use that as a foundation in my readings. And this is what the guidebook looks like. Again, it's got a lot of really great information.